Okay, so it looks like we're live already, so cool. Welcome everybody. I'm Dustin from TrackDaz here in Southern California, and I'm on with MotoAmerica Superbike champion Jake Gagne. What's up, dude?
What's going on? Thanks for having me coming on here.
Oh my God, dude, you've definitely, I've gotten to watch you progress over the years. I mean, I remember when you were just a little guy, and all of a sudden you're like the man now.
I wonder when the first time we would have met would have been.
Oh, more than 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, you were pretty young, and I think you had just maybe maybe it was right before you went to the season that you won the Rookies Cup, maybe.
Yeah, okay, probably. I remember doing some track days with you guys. I don't know
Yeah.
if you were around, but I'm sure you were around. So,
Yeah, dude. I've been around for 20, man.
all
So
right, nice.
yeah, like you're kind of like the 10-year overnight success, right?
A long 10 years. It's
Yeah,
gone by
man.
so fast, though. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's you know, you raced on that world stage early on, right? I mean, I know that I hung out with your dad quite a bit
Mhm.
the last couple of years. Like every time I'm at the races and your dad's there, somehow we ended up just hanging out.
Yeah, you guys have some fun together.
Oh my God, dude, it's hilarious. And so he's told me all about your early dirt bike days and stuff, and you know, sunglasses sponsors and all this. It's pretty funny. But like when did you, because you were a young guy racing motocross or whatever, right? So
Mhm.
when did you decide to switch it up and go road racing?
It would have been, I guess, the end of 2007. Like I said, I was probably 13 or 4, 13, I'd say. And yeah, I'd just been racing motocross my whole life from 5 up until that point. And we're kind of racing a lot locally and doing some of the national stuff, and we were doing all right. And that was my goal, is to race pro motocross, supercross type of thing. And then it was the end of 2008. My dad saw like a sign up thing at the local dealership, signed me up for the Rookies Cup tryout that Red Bull was doing. And then yeah, just out of nowhere, he ended up getting picked for that. Went to Alabama, and that was my first time ever in a set of leathers or ever riding anything on asphalt at all. So I was kind of thrown in the deep end, but I figured it out. And like I've said before, I was probably the slowest kid that got picked from the tryouts because I was so new to it all. But throughout the year, we got better and better. And when you're a kid, you pick it up quick.
Right. Well, not everyone does. I mean, we've seen the kids come and go to Red Bull Rookies Cup, right? It seems like the American kids the last several years, when they do get picked, it's like they really get thrown into the deep end, and I don't know. I don't know why it's so different now, but I mean, you went out the second year, you went and just won the thing, right?
Yeah, we did the first year, and then the second year back. That was my third year road racing. And we won over there, kind of just like JD did, and like a lot of the other Americans kind of did. Even if they produced kind of success over there, it never really translated it to a whole
Right.
lot going into the World Championship or whatever. But
Yeah.
either way, I haven't keep track on the Rookies Cup every year or anything, but I know it's stacked, and you see the kids that come through and now are in the whatever Moto 3 or Moto 2 and all that. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't seem to produce a lot of champions beyond the Rookies Cup, right? I mean, there's a few, right? But it just doesn't seem like it translates for some reason, for whatever reason, because it looks super competitive.
yeah, it is. It is. It's just, I mean, I guess there's so many other routes for those kids to go over there too, through like the other Spanish championships or whatever it is. I think there's just so many different routes, and that's, one of the many good ones, I'm sure.
So you win the Rookies Cup, and then what? You did like a Moto 2 thing?
Yeah, I did a little bit of Moto 2 and Spanish Championship. I was actually Matthew Skoltz's teammate. So, and
Oh
I
yeah.
already knew him from Rookies Cup anyway, so we were kind of on the same gig uh in the Spanish CV thing. I only did, I think, the first 3 or 4 races, and then the team, it was one of those things, the team kind of wanted money, we didn't have any, and so I went home the rest of that year. Um which was a bummer. And but at the same time, like, that's kind of what happened the next year with Road Race Factory and that whole program. So we got a lot of good good years of racing with Danny and on a
Yeah.
lot of those Yamahas and some other manufacturers too. So it led into that. And that's kind of when MotoAmerica in 2015 started, and they've done a great job since then. So it's kind of just every year rolls on by.
Yeah, I remember it's weird that you were teammates with JD a couple times, right?
Yeah, for a couple of years. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
again this year at one point,
Yeah, you guys came out to one of our track days, the Danny's team, and you guys ended up racing that weekend, and it was pretty funny. Danny putting track day stickers on the Road Race Factory bikes.
I know, it's funny. I remember, now that you say it, I remember I have an old helmet somewhere, like my dad probably has it, but I just remember because still had the track day sticker. I think, we just threw stickers on everything. So I has one on the visor right here. So I remember that one.
Yeah, like you guys were making sure to do lots of wheelies for me and stuff, so we could do Wheelie Wednesday for like 6 months after that.
Yeah. That was a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, so you raced a lot of stuff, you raced that R6 for a few years, right? And then you guys in 15 you switched to the R1 and did the stock 1000 thing, right?
Yeah, we did 3 years with Road Race Factory on the 600s. I think it would have been 2012, 13, and 14, and that was when it was Daytona sport bike. So and then 14 we won that 600 sport bike championship, and then 15 we had the run on I think that was the first year on the R1, the new R1.
It was.
Yeah, that thing was just awesome. Even in super stock trim, we had that bike really, really dialed in that year, and so we kind of won a lot of those races. So that was a good year. And then we did do one more year on the Yamaha Superbike and had a bunch of issues, and it wasn't the best one, but we had some solid years for sure.
You guys, when you guys, well, you know what? Let me back up a little bit, because you were on the 600, and this kind of leads into the theme. I've been getting questions from people asking, but like there is one of those years you were on the 600 where that season you were the only dude to beat Cameron. So
yeah, I know. Well, I think if it wasn't for that one race, he would have been undefeated all year long. So
right,
yeah.
So like that's from. I just had to throw that in there. Like I actually dug up some numbers for this just so I could talk smack.
All right, cool.
But yeah, like I guess Daytona Sport Bike, right? That was when DMG was still kind of running things, and it was Daytona Sport Bike was sort of like super sport kind of.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't even remember what it was, but
yeah, it was like kind of like 600 Superbike, basically, kind of. They did the Daytona 200 on those things too, right?
Yeah, I remember that's the couple of years I did the 200 was with on that bike in that program. So that was cool to do that, for a couple of years. So
a lot of people in the club racing world, anyway, they kind of struggle with that transition from a 600 to 1,000. Like, how did that go for you?
For me, that was the year transitioning like onto the first R1. And I remember the first day I rode a super bike. It would have been the beginning of that year. And I went to one of the tests with Yamaha because I was when Cam and Josh were on the team riding the super bikes. And I remember just riding, I rode a bone stock one around all day and just rode around with those guys. And I was impressed by just how easy of a transition it was, especially kind of with that R6 to R1 kind of transition. I think it makes, they lend themselves good together, but I think the biggest thing was just getting used to the power and being able to have to hold on to the thing, get a little more strength, and but it was a pretty decent learning curve, I guess. Kind of
eats up a lot more, eats up a ground a lot faster, right?
Everything comes at you a little quicker. You get used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so so that year you come out and you were I can't remember how exactly they had it, but it was like stock 1,000 or super stock 1,000, and you guys were kind of gridded with the super bikes, right?
Yeah, that year it wasn't separate at all like it is now. So we didn't even have our own races at all. Every one of the super stock races was just in the Superbike grid, and it's just kind of how whoever finished where in that. So, but which was cool. That was awesome for me because then I got to try to keep those super bikes a little bit in sight, so that's what kept me fired up, you know.
Yeah. So, you won the thing in 15, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we won the championship and won a good amount of races that year against, those guys. And so that was the last year I won a race until this one, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Cheers.
I remember you guys were sponsored by that chicken company, right? The gas station chicken or whatever. Like,
Yeah. Well, the
chicken.
super stock year we were still Red Bull because it was that Red Bull Yamaha.
Oh, okay.
And then after that we went to Broster job, flew on board, and
Right.
we had the Broster chicken and then the Broster Honda the year after that.
Yeah. So you did a couple years on the Honda or in here in the States or just one?
We did one. Yeah, we did 1 year in the States, which I guess would probably be maybe 17. Uh, yeah, and then that's the next year is when I rode the Honda in World Superbike. So that was kind of 2 years on the Honda, the States, and then there.
Yeah, you did one World Superbike round at Laguna that year, right? Or a couple rounds?
Yeah, we did Laguna, which was the first one on Nikki's bike. That was really cool. And then we did France, Magny-Cours, and then Qatar at the end of the year. So yeah, they kept calling me back, so they must not
have hated you too much.
Yeah, exactly.
So, filling in, you said you rode Nikki's bike. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, what kind of pressure were you under filling that dude's shoes?
Yeah, it was, I knew it was a lot, but I knew I couldn't think of it like that. I know it was obviously a horrible situation to be there like that, but
Yeah.
I was happy that at least somebody got, a home turf guy got to ride at the home track in front of the fans. So I thought that was cool. And yeah, I was a little thrown in the deep end, I remember riding down the pit lane for the first time, like, all right, it's time to go. These guys don't mess around. And but we actually had a pretty dang good weekend for a lot of really new stuff for me. And I can't remember exactly what results but we were kind of right there behind Brattle and had a couple good races. So I was pretty pumped, and all the fan support was really, I remember it was really, really awesome that weekend too. It was like everywhere I walked for like the first time in my life, it's like people, I had people coming up to me, which made it really cool. So.
Well, I remember the following season, I remember talking to you and, that particular bike was certainly not the best bike on the grid. Right. But, talking to you, you're like, dude, I'm just stoked to be here. Right.
Yeah. It wasn't, you could argue it definitely wasn't the best bike out there that year at the time, but I mean, it was still at that point in my life, the most badass bike I'd ridden, really, I mean,
Really?
the bike is still pretty incredible. I mean, even sometimes would be down outside the top 10 or in the top 10. It's, those bikes aren't that far off those other ones. We're talking tenths usually. And, but it was still an awesome bike to ride. It's just when you got to try to follow a Cowie around or the Yamaha around, it was like, okay, we got some areas to improve.
So tell me a little bit about that World Superbike experience. I mean, how did, just talk about it, like the travel and the European tracks and the Pirelli tires back then. Like, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was obviously awesome to get to see all those cool tracks. We went to some World Superbike series, goes to some pretty awesome tracks and some different ones too that aren't kind of the normal GP style. It's ones that you remind me of a little bit like America, but I had a fun year, it was a lot of travel. That's for sure. That was the only thing that kind of wears you down, is traveling that much a little bit, but I had a lot of fun, and obviously had some bad days, had some big crashes that year for sure. So I was limping around the airports plenty of times, but it was still a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and the team was really cool. I had a lot of good guys and a good group around me. And so, we did what we could, learned a lot and improved throughout the year. And we were finally feeling pretty dang good by the end. And that was the end of the show. So.
Right. So you start improving, everything's starting to feel good. You're gelling with the thing and they're like, okay, bye.
Yeah, pretty much. I think even at the last round, they still didn't even really know what was going to go on at the next year, because that year was still Red Bull, Honda, and the next year they needed to figure out what they're going to do. And I think that's the year where maybe it separated from the Tenkate guys anyway.
I was thinking that. Yeah, the Tenkate guys, they were Honda forever, and then all of a sudden they weren't.
Yeah, right.
So I can't remember did Moriwaki take them over? I forget, but one of those teams took them over, I guess. I don't know. And
Yeah, something like
Takata
that.
went to Yamaha, which is weird also, after years of seeing them on doing the Honda thing, to have them switch to Yamaha, that was kind of weird to see.
Yeah, it was. They had some good races too, I think. I guess
Yeah.
that was when Baz rode it for, I don't, they didn't do the whole year or whatever, but they had some good runs.
Right. So you come back to the States, and what you did, what was it? What'd you do?
600.
You came back to the States and did a 600?
Oh, no. Okay. After World Superbike, right.
Yeah, after World, you did the BMW, right? Or
that was when the next year, yeah, I did the BMW with Shy Racing.
okay.
I mean, that was an all right. That year started off rough because I broke my leg pretty good. And so even at the first round, we didn't really test much, and I could still kind of barely walk. So I was just getting the bike around. But towards the end of the year, we started picking up the pace and had a couple good races. And
I saw you.
Steve was a good guy to work with. So
I saw you that year limping around, and I remember cracking wise with you, asking you if it was a limp or a strut. And you're like, I'm not sure, dude. That motocross thing, that kind of banged your leg up bad. Like, that was a nasty one.
Yeah, that was a good one for sure. I just like the recovery was a lot longer than I thought, just because I had to stay off for so long, and all the metal and shit they had to throw in there. That was fun. So, but yeah, luckily I kind of still, throughout that year, it started feeling, by the end of the year, it wasn't really bothering me at all. So I was just a little behind. We were a little behind that year, but we still, we had a couple good runs. So.
Well, that bike, I mean, I don't know the specifics on that bike, but I mean, to go from a full world Superbike to that thing, I mean, as far as from what I heard, it's still a couple years old, right? It's still when you got on it, it was a couple years old, right?
Yeah, he's still running the older model, but he knows the bike well. He's happy with it, and the bike's, it's definitely fast. It was definitely one of the motors pretty awesome on the thing, and but just getting it around some of the other parts wasn't always easy.
Right. And then, since then you've been on the Attack Yamahas.
Yeah, and then since then, second year on the Attack Yamahas there, and Richard's just done such an awesome job with his program and all the knowledge he has over the years, and so yeah, I mean, obviously the program, the bikes are incredible, and they're working super good, and so yeah, I'm pumped on the success we've had.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching you at the first test. You showed up, and I don't even think they had a bike for you yet. Like, they rolled out, Cameron's bike from the previous year, the first test, and had you riding around on that, right?
Yeah, that was at the first year of my contract last year, because that was when Richard had a bunch of fun new attack stuff to try, and so Cam was kind of on that duty, and I just had getting back on the R1 after a couple of years. I just was riding around the old bike, but I love the thing right away, and yeah, I remember you were there. You've been to most of our tests. You're always
I know. I'm like Richard's timing bitch at the test.
Is that what he has you doing? Running?
Yeah, like I go and I plug in the MyLaps thing, and so they can have lap times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like something with the GPS on the dashes or something being inconsistent. So he's like, plug into the loop,
Yeah, that makes it easy. It's good to just have it all right there,
Yeah.
Those guys still have to write it down no matter what. But
yeah, so it's been fun, that year, the first year you were with the team, and ever since then I've gotten to go to a lot of the tests, and even the out of state ones. So it's been pretty fun, and get to ride at those out of state tracks too. But watching you progress as a rider from last year to this year has been insane. Like I mean, that's a lot of the themes of the questions that I get from people are asking about that. Like, dude, what the hell happened? And I don't know if you watch them, but Richard and I have discussed it at length, all year. So,
yeah, I've seen some of your guys' chats, so it's always cool.
Yeah. So, last year you had this, I think you were still kind of learning the team and learning the bike too, but man, last year, your bike was violent, and it was really exciting to watch as a fan. You know, I mean, had it not been for Cameron last year, you would have won the title by a mile too. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so tell me a little bit about that bike. I mean, I've seen them build it. I don't know if have you watched them at the shop working on those things?
I've only been there once, and so and I didn't see them from the ground up or anything, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've seen them from the ground up in the pit.
At the track, yeah.
Yeah. A couple times, right?
Oh yeah, plenty of times.
Yeah. But, you know, like tell me a little bit about that. Like what's it like working with the guys that are turning wrenches and doing electronics on those things?
It's been awesome. You know, obviously Richard's got such a good platform over the last couple of years, even especially with the Yamaha. Even starting in last year, we started from such a solid level. And I think that showed, you know, with Cam really taking off right from the start. And obviously it was my first year back on the R1 and a lot of new things going on and trying to figure out how to ride the bike better and change a couple things on my riding style that I've kind of picked up over on the other bikes, you know, and
Yeah.
so I think that's kind of the main thing. Some of it maybe was a little bit of the bike, a little bit of bike setup stuff, but it's mostly just the rider anyway, you know. And I'm sometimes like last year, there was a lot of times where I was causing more issues just with over putting too much input on the bike or trying to get a little too much out of it. And then I just kind of go backwards, you know. But I think that's what I learned a lot, even from Cameron last year, how smooth he rides the bike and how hard he's able to ride the front tire and carry roll speed and pick up the gas early and kind of spin it in the right ways and kind of all the little things, you know, that to find that sweet spot in the bike that's going to work well, you know. So it takes time, but you know, I think by the end of all I learned last year, we had a really good, solid couple preseason tests this year, and we we're kind of able to think about a lot more of that stuff where you always can't think about that on race weekends because you're always staring at lap times and wondering, well, you know, what you got to do. But
yeah, so you know what, going into that too, like I'm just gonna say it just like it was said to me. Like, so tell me about Corn Dog helping you break a couple of your bad habits.
yeah, he's been awesome, man. That guy's got so much knowledge, and he's just a great guy. We just have a bunch of great guys to work the program together. But yeah, a lot of the stuff, you know, a lot of the rear brake stuff that I know you and Richard have probably talked about, and just like he's probably said too before, that's kind of just like for a lot of people a little bit of like a safety mechanism if something's not feeling perfect or you're just not 100% sure what the bike's going to do. It'll kind of cause you to drag in areas where maybe you really don't need to. Especially when you got the electronics working pretty well and the engine braking is in a spot that you like and wheelie control works well, you know. There's places that I would use it where I have no need using it. And, you know, even coming out of turns or to settle the bike down before braking or something like that. And yeah, so we've tried to not roast so many rotors these days. I think I've done an all right job.
Yeah. Well, also something about feathering the clutch. I don't know.
He tells me not to touch that clutch after the start. Don't even take the lever off.
Right. Yeah, I heard that was a thing with you, like burning up clutches. So,
and I think a lot of that too was from just how I was starting the bike a lot differently last year, and I'd even sit there with the front brake kind of engaged, and you know you feel the spot in the clutch, so you're ready to rock, but you don't roll, and so I was kind of sitting on that edge for a long time, and also just slipping the clutch, keeping the RPMs too high, trying to get a good start when it works better at a lower RPM, you know, and just kind of rolling the thing out. Even though it always didn't feel faster or sound faster because I'm not whining the hell out of the thing. That's usually what was happening.
Okay. Well, you know what? I got some comments already live, and one of them is from this year's teammate, Josh Heron.
All right, nice.
Yeah. So Josh says he wants to know if you talked about how the Red Bull thing came together. You know,
the Rookies Cup thing.
Yeah, like he said he always heard that Red Bull wanted you to try road racing. Like,
no, I hadn't had any Red Bull affiliation at all, or you know, at all before Rookies Cup, but I was riding like for KTM at the time, so that's how we heard it, through KTM, through our local dealership, and it was a KTM Rookies Cup, KTM Red Bull deal. So it kind of went about through there. But that Rookies Cup was my first ever experience with Red Bull. But then, they stayed with me for a lot of good years. I know Josh was with them for a lot of great years too. So it's,
That's cool. You're just lucky. Like, I mean, to be able to be a dirt bike guy and then like 2 years later be world champion.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible deal. I mean, obviously it was paid, kind of just all the kids pay for your travel and show up to the races. And for that, that's why we were all right with giving up a year racing motocross. It's like, all right, well, we could probably save a little money. Everything's, we could take this opportunity, and it was all that was up to the riders and families is just show up to the track and everything's there. So that you can't turn that down,
So Rick Crespo is asking, why don't you guys run World Superbike with the TAC?
I know Richard always talking about it. It'd be cool, especially maybe next year, so we can kind of put some stuff in a big old box and send it over somewhere.
Dude, he was talking about doing one this year, and then something happened, and like it's just, I don't know, maybe it's too late or.
Yeah, we were talking about it, but we'll see. Hopefully next year it'd be cool if we could line something like that up. It sucks. Yeah. It would be awesome if they still came to Laguna or something like that. It sucks that they don't come back here anymore.
Yeah, they should come back. That was great. Plus, like, selfishly, Pirelli had us hosting the Monday after.
Oh yeah, that's a good day to ride. That's like the best day to ride too.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, so like Pirelli would pay us to like run the Pirelli after World Superbike day, and we did it for like 5 years, and then all of a sudden World Superbike was gone, and so were we.
I think I did it one Monday with you guys. It would have been the year I was on BMW, so it would have been. Yeah, I remember being there on Monday, right, with you guys.
Yeah, I think you were the one guy we didn't have to throw out for sound or whatever.
Maybe.
But yeah, so, and then I've got another question. Joseph Novella wants to know if Attack is going to have you run the Daytona race next year.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that, so we'll see.
Yeah. Because I know that Richard's got those whatever he's calling them, R6s.
He's building a bunch. He's building a bunch of the shop, huh?
Yeah, so I think there's like a dozen or so of them, and they're going to be like full super sport build R6s. So I would not be surprised if Richard dusted off his Daytona 200 stuff that he's used forever, right? Stops and all that, the quick change and all that. So
that'd be cool. It'll be cool to see those bikes. I'm sure he's stoked to get them while they're hot.
Yeah, well, I've seen them. I know that he's on vacation right now, so I'm sure when he comes back, like that's probably his next thing, right? I mean, of the many things that guy does.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so that's something you're interested in, like maybe doing the 200?
Yeah, I'm interested in anything,
Of course you are.
I'll have to talk to Richard about that.
Yeah, you do that. Tell him Dustin said.
I don't know if that'll.
See how that works out for you. Yeah. So, so for this season, like I said, I was at all the tests, and it's really funny. Later in the season, I think it was at Jersey. Greg White was talking about you on TV, and he was like, "Oh, everybody had other people picked to win the championship this year, and nobody had predicted the giant quote wrecking ball of Jake Gagne this season, right?" And I'm like, I don't know if you could say nobody, because I was at the first test. Like I remember telling everybody after the first test, like Jake's gonna ruin everybody this year. So tell me about that, like that transition, like everybody wants to know what the hell happened.
I think, like we were talking a lot earlier, a lot of the riding stuff changed. Having another year under my belt on the same bike, having Corn Dog coming in as crew chief and Darren on the electronic side was another huge help. Those guys just have so much knowledge, and I still had Mike Canfield and Walker, as on the bikes, and it was good to have those guys back so we had a great crew, and Richard's always there helping us out too. He's always it's always real really going around the whole truck, but yeah, besides the team, me trying to ride the bike a little bit differently, all that stuff kind of coming together. Like you said, even at the test earlier in the year, I know we had the pace to win a lot of races, and that doesn't mean it could happen every time, but I felt like we were always, we were one of the best guys to win the championships. That was the goal. And once we kind of started winning and we had the bike to win, we knew we had the bike to win every weekend. And it's kind of just making those little kind of tweaks to kind of know what we have to do for the race and the whole race distance and figuring that stuff out. And so, yeah, we did a lot of great work, and the whole team did a lot of great work together. And, we always kept improving, even when those guys were real close. And so it was a lot of fun.
Was it weird having your data guy be remoted in all year?
It was tough. It worked out a lot better, I think, than any of us could have hoped. I know there was a lot more logistics than I even know about or could understand, with all the, making sure you have the right connections and the internet and all the stuff to make sure it could actually happen. Cause, sometimes we don't always have a lot of time. Sometimes we're trying to make a speakerphone call on pit lane, and it,
Right.
That's the only tough thing, is that it makes the communication a little more tough to maybe make immediate changes. But everything that we needed to happen and needed changed, he was able to get it done, even when it wasn't, when he wasn't there, obviously. But it was cool that he got to come to the last 2 rounds finally, and at least enjoy some race weekends with the whole crew.
Yeah, because literally, he made that first test, and then all of a sudden, Canada was like, "Yeah, you can't come back." Right?
Yeah, I know. He teased us. Darren teased us with just the test, and then yeah, like every weekend, I'm like, "Is he coming? Is he coming?" Nope. And then finally, he had to show up. He found a way.
I don't know if you know this or not, but I think Darren spent a lot more time than most people know, logged in remotely at the shop too.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Dude, that guy, talk about work ethic. I know Richard's a beast, but there's not too many people that can follow that guy. But to have Darren in there basically all hours, I'd be in the shop over Christmas break last year, and it was like, yeah, he's in, he's remoted in.
Yeah.
Right.
Richard just calling Darren, "Hey, when are you off your day job? You got to clock in. Come on, man."
Yeah, dude.
Let's get dinner. Let's go to work.
Well, he set up a computer in the shop that was like that had like Team Viewer or whatever, so he could just remote right in and no supervision at all. But if you open that door anytime, you would see the cursor moving around and squiggly lines on the screen. So
that's funny. Like I walk by Darren's, even when he wasn't there, there's that laptop in the truck. I walk by him like it's all beep, beep, beep and rolling things around. I'm like, oh, Darren, at least he's doing stuff all the time.
So somebody's saying, yeah, you want a Daytona 200 trophy.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a second one year, a second to Eslick. I think I can't remember what year it would have been. Well, 13 or 14 probably.
And then Rick Crespo wants to know if the rules allowed it for the 200, would you run Pirelli or Dunlop?
I don't know, especially around Daytona. I got a good thing with I got a good thing going with the Dunlops right now. So those are kind of my home.
There you go. I think the right answer would be whatever the team says, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we talked about Marshall a little bit. Let's talk about Corn Dog a bit. That dude, he's kind of a legend, right?
Yeah, totally. He's got so much, like we said, so much experience with all sides of things, with the tuning and suspension and chassis and with riding as well. And he's seen like he said, he's seen a lot of things, and with that, a lot of knowledge and a lot of, everything we've always worked through, all the problems that come up throughout the weekend that we're trying to work through on the bike. I think we got a good relationship now and understanding of what we're actually trying to fight for and what's going to help us go faster. And he's just done a really good job of, I think, helping me understand what we need and how to communicate it and how to try this or try that. And you just always got a really dialed in plan. Every weekend we go to the track with a bike that we know is going to run good right away. And he's already got something in the works for what he think could happen type of thing. And so there's always always prepared for anything, So it's been an awesome year working with those guys.
I also, just kind of from the outside in, getting to see the crew in action, watching Walker interact with you and how he just had this like super chill demeanor. He'd kind of whisper something in your ear and you're like, yeah, then you would go out and ride. Like there was no throwing wrenches and crap in your pit. Like
No, I think that was nice. The whole side was the whole team was pretty mellow, and everybody was yeah, like you said, just staying calm. There wasn't any, even when shit was a little coming quick at us and we had to make some changes or time was low, everybody got together and just focused on doing the job and not freaking out. And but yeah, I've learned a lot from those guys over this year, in the last couple of years, obviously on this team. And so it's kind of helped me know what it takes to get the whole program to go forward, because especially, with these super bikes, those things are pretty badass these days. And there's a lot of, you can get lost in trying too many different things or trying to make this, that better. And so you got to focus on the basics and figure it out,
So, going into that, like let's talk about that a little bit because there's a lot of guys that'll go and I mean their crew chief, they'll make their crew chief scramble, change a bunch of stuff and it kills a lot of their seat time, right? So then, they've lost half the practice session or most of the practice session changing things, right? Mm-hmm. And how much did you I don't remember seeing you change much at all.
No, we were fortunate. I've been in that position too, where you're like, you're fighting for everything you can and you just can't get to where you want. So sometimes you say, well, let's try, flip some things around or try something a little different. But we're in this, especially this year, we knew the zone that the bike that I liked the bike to be in that felt comfortable for me. And that's kind of what it's all about, is just giving the guy what they are comfortable and confident and they know what's going to happen with the thing. And so, luckily we're always in that spot. We didn't have to make any big, huge changes, maybe a little ride height, a little couple clickers here or a couple fork spring stuff. But it was always in that zone where we knew it worked good. So we didn't have to mess with any catastrophic changes, The only time we would miss out on sessions is that, the one or two where I threw it down and that was on me, not those guys.
Yeah, I mean, at the test at Brainerd, you tossed one, and I mean, you hurt your hand, and like I remember talking to you. You and I have had a couple of long form discussions before at the track, and I ended up in a pretty hefty discussion with you that weekend. But you had this look on your face. You were so mad you crashed the bike.
Yeah. I was pissed. It was just like one of those crashes too, where I didn't think it'd be big. And then it was pretty gnarly. And then I ended up smacking my hand really good. And we had another day of testing the next day. And that was already kind of in the afternoon. So I was bummed to miss that day. And I was like, well, shit, hopefully I'll be all right tomorrow. And I woke up the next day and my hand just felt even way worse. And I remember I got my leathers on. I went out because I did a few laps on that, on the R7, right? Because we had that thing there. And so, and I could barely ride that thing. I'm like, okay, guys, I'm probably not riding my Superbike today. And so I changed my flight, flew home because we only had like another week and a half until I think it was the Ridge.
Was it? The Ridge. That's right.
Yeah. So I was a little worried there for a couple of days, and because it got swollen up pretty bad, and but it was fine by the Ridge. It was just a little bit annoying, but other than that, it was all right.
Yeah, your dad told me that you called him and you're like, I need to go get an X-ray, like pronto.
Yeah, luckily it wasn't anything bad, and it felt, it was just one of those things. A couple of days later, it started to feel better, and then I could deal with it.
So, I gave you crap about this a couple of times this year, but this year largely because of your success, obviously, but like you had a swagger to you, like you walked around like with this like crazy swagger this year that I've never seen before, bro.
Really? Oh no, maybe it's because I was limping less than you've seen me before.
I actually talked to you about it at Brainerd, I think, but it was like, dude, the swagger was like, it looked like you knew you had everybody beat. Like, you didn't want to say it though.
I got to do it. That's all that matters.
Right on. Okay.
If anything, man, I didn't think I had any swagger to begin with, but I think I was just probably enjoying myself a little more. You know, it's fun and you know, you got a good solid machine and you're fighting for race wins. And so maybe it's just maybe I was in a little bit of a good mood.
But it was all season, dude. Like you definitely had something that nobody else had this year, obviously. I mean, there was a couple of guys that like would get a taste and then you would be like, all right, see ya.
Yeah, we had a lot of really good races. And I mean, we did good work throughout the year in practice, being in a good position with the bike. We were able to do like a lot of really long runs and kind of understand. I knew it was a lot more about the whole 20 laps than just a lap, So even if times are really, really tight in qualifying or practice, I kind of knew that after a couple laps, even if I needed to really push, we could always push. And I knew where the tires would be at and all that and how they develop over the race. And so, like I said, or like we talked about, it was kind of just been a race with my pit board all year because I've gotten really great starts most of the time. And so it's kind of just managing that gap of a couple tenths or a couple seconds. And but I kind of enjoyed that side of things this year. It's something different, having to lead whatever all those 16, 17 races, lead every single one of those laps. I think I learned a lot as a rider to be able to crank those laps out and know what I got to do and not worry about what's going on behind me and just do my job, and whatever happens.
So there's a couple of things about this. There's a fitness thing, but a motivation thing too. I mean, how do you stay motivated to keep going when you're so far out? Just keep going and nearly lap record pace, lap after lap after lap, the entire length of the race.
I think that's kind of part of it, is just doing the work in practice and qualifying, and so I know what position I already have been there. When I go out and practice, I go out there and ride as hard as I can, just like it's going to be in the race. So I know what I'm going to be up against 10 or 15, 20 laps into the race, and so it just gets easier and easier even throughout the year. It kind of got easier and easier to kind of just, I look at my pit board and my lap time every lap. I know the zone I want to be in. And then from then I just have fun, just ride the bike and enjoy it. And kind of, you kind of go into that flow and just, at that point, even like I tell my guys, Mike Canfield on the pit board, I'm like, don't even tell me, I don't even have him put how many laps to go until there's, 4 or 5 towards the end. Cause I just ride until I get close to seeing the end of the race,
That's awesome, man. But that goes into the fitness side too, right? I mean, you've got to have a pretty strong level. I've seen you come off after a bunch of laps and it doesn't even look like you've broken a sweat. So, tell me a little bit about, I mean, you talked about it on your, on where they were at your house or whatever, the MotoAmerica thing, but like, tell me about like your diet and training program a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me in a little bit.
I don't got any cool secrets for you, man.
Like, what are you having for breakfast, dude? Like,
usually like some eggs, man, an omelet and toast. Pretty simple. But no, I mean, I think over the years I've just found out what works for me. And as far as my fitness, I do some hiking, some mountain biking, some just body weight, kettlebell, pretty simple stuff. And I think a lot of it comes with experience too. The more years I've gotten on especially a Superbike, you kind of get fit. You kind of get, like we all know, there's that fitness you can get on a road bike or mountain bike or whatever, but none of that stuff never directly transitions to being on a motorcycle or racing a motorcycle, So I think that has come with time and experience. And, those times that I do get at the track on my Superbike, I take the most, try to take the most of it and get as many laps in as I can and use those opportunities, because we don't get to, I don't get to ride that Superbike very often, a couple of times a year besides the race weekend. So you just gotta make the most of it,
Yeah, when you lived in San Diego a few years ago, you were telling me that that your training was basically you went surfing and then you rode motocross. That was it.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I still did a lot of mountain biking back then, but mainly just surfed, and I rode a lot of motocross, especially more years ago in my younger days, and that was the one bummer part. I guess the two bummers about leaving San Diego to Colorado was the ocean and all the cool motocross tracks, because they're all so nice down there. But other than that, it was nice to kind of make that change, But I do miss riding the motorbike. But I know that that's a lot of stupid little injuries kind of come into play there, and that was always my main source of training. But kind of like we said, even this year, last year, my fitness has felt so good that I haven't really felt the need to go crank out a bunch of motos and do something that Richard would be mad about.
I was just gonna say that. I was like, I know Richard was in your ass about that.
Yeah, it's the one guy I don't want to call and say, hey, I did something stupid on my dirt bike.
So I've got a bunch of questions from Facebook, but I'm going to give one more from the YouTube guide. Ricky Von Ricky wants to know if you can feel the difference between different swing arms, or is that something you only really see on the lap timer?
No, usually I think that comes with feel. I mean, and since I've been on this Yamaha, we haven't really had to test a whole lot of swing arms because that thing has been in a pretty good spot. Like I rode the old attack bike, like we said at that first test I ever did. But usually it's just kind of in the feel from how the thing flexes or how it slides and reacts. And but I haven't had like a whole day testing swing arms and done a lot of back to back with those things, but it's for sure, it's always feel, and you got to pay attention to the lap time, I guess, a little bit too. But I think feel is kind of the most important thing.
I remember at one of the tests you tried an engine too that Richard had been developing.
Yeah, I wonder which one that was.
I think it was the engine that you guys took to Coda.
But okay, so like at the beginning of this year,
yeah. I think
we were trying to get a little more power out of him from last year to this year, and Richard did a good job at that. That's for sure. Those things
the trap speeds were pretty insane. Like,
yeah, they were awesome.
Yeah.
And it was good. Even all those bikes were really pretty close at those guys at the front of the Superbike field on the Superbikes. It was all pretty close.
Yeah, that Ducati was pretty quick in the trap speeds as well. I don't know. I guess they were having a hard time figuring out how to make that thing work on the American tracks that are bumpy.
Yeah. I think that's when they struggled most on that thing, is the bumpier tracks,
Or as Richard would say, it's like that stupid single-sided swing arm.
Yeah, I don't know what that thing's about. I'll never understand that. Then again, I haven't really ever ridden a Ducati, I don't think, but I don't know. It's funky.
Okay, so wow, there's a couple more comments coming in. Congrats on the championship. Chris McCreary says this. Congrats on the championship. He said he briefly chatted with you a couple times at Pit Race.
All right.
And it's the same chill dude now as he was on track. So there you go. Basically, what you see is what you get with you.
Yeah, that's about it. I don't got any surprises.
Okay, and then let's see. Donovan, we talked about what he changed from last year to this year already. You'll have to rewind back to watch that. And then let's see. Jason wants to know, what changes did you make as a rider, like not just the bike, but as a rider, that made you feel that helped you go faster?
Like I think from last year to this year, like we were talking about, is kind of smoothing myself out on the controls a little bit, rolling on the gas a little bit earlier, making sure I'm picking the bike off the edge, and really try not to use the edge of the tire so much, especially because these super bikes are so fast. When you're coming off the edge, off the turn, you got to get those things on the center of the tire and let it go. And but just being smoother on the lever, even on the brake lever, not being so aggressive, and trying to keep the pitch and yaw of the thing a little bit smoother and easier and more centered. And man, just like I said, I ain't got any big, cool, fantastic secrets that are gonna save anybody's day, but just working on.
Just watch, they might.
Just working on the little things like that. Just trying to be smoother, and like I said, focusing on when I'm at the track, trying to make the most of the laps that I'm doing, and trying different things and understanding what I do if I move my weight a little more forward, a little more back. And that's like something that even Corn Dog and I talk about a lot, before we turn the whole bike around, like, try moving your ass up on the seat an inch or two or closer to the tank and or move your weight back and things like that, to try to get around it and see what the bike feels like a little differently, different weight around it.
Well, one of the things that, just I get to see a lot of the stuff behind the scenes, right? So, comparing last year to this year, last year, there was a bunch of races where I saw on the data that you were 16 bar of pressure on the brake lever, like just boom, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot, dude. Like
Yeah.
16 bars is a lot, dude. It's like 200 and something pounds. Like,
Yeah.
and that's just with two fingers, like boom. And this year, it's quite a bit less than that.
Yeah. And it's funny how, you could slam with that much more pressure and not necessarily even slow the bike down as quick, but yeah, in a situation like that, like I'll slam the brake and you end up lifting the rear end off. So you got to release the brake anyway, and then unsettle the bike all around. And also too, with riding the Dunlops more and more, you kind of understand how they flex, and if you hit them with that much force that quick and try to, sometimes it could feel like a little bit of a spring and you can kind of get the tire to squash a little too much. So if you kind of make those forces into the tire a little smoother and not have them flex and reflex and kind of rebound as much, those things kind of help out too.
Yeah, what you're saying, most club racers have no idea what you're talking about, myself included. I'll admit that. That's cool that you could feel that, though. I mean,
when you flex them that hard, when you're putting that much force, you'll start to know, or you end up on your face either way.
Yeah, well, usually we end up on our face, right?
Us too. Me too. Plenty of times.
So Donovan Piper says, when you want to find more time on the track, what's your first go-to? Is it braking? Is it corner exit?
Yeah, I think corner exit more than anything. Like I think you see a lot of guys when they're like learning new tracks, just kind of blowing every brake marker and kind of going and then working themselves back almost. And I don't think that's ever worked for me. I think I want to make sure I know where I want to be at the apex so I can make sure I have a good exit, and I kind of just try to work my way to that point by braking a little later and later, but at the same time, there's some turns where I got to end up braking a little earlier and just being a little smoother with the brake lever and rolling on the gas earlier instead of trying to force it that much,
Wow, man, that's perfect. I mean, that's like a perfect answer, dude. All right, so I've got a bunch of questions from Facebook people.
Right,
so Bernard Roman says it would be great to know if World Superbike or MotoGP have asked you to race for them, or if you have any interest in racing in Europe again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I know people ask me that all the time, even from after the year we had this year, it's like, well, they expect me to be in World Superbike next year or something. But there's just a lot more. If there was a good opportunity or there hasn't been any opportunity really to go over there for next year. But if there's a good opportunity at some point, I'm always down. I'm always, as long as it's a good bike and a good team, something that I can enjoy racing and feel like we can do a good job on, then I'm in, and I don't even know what's going to happen next year yet, but yeah.
I mean, it seems like it's looking more and more like you're going to continue with this team. Yeah.
That's what I hope for sure. Yeah. And I just know nothing's set in stone or signed away yet, but unless the world falls apart, I think hopefully we'll be good to go there.
Yeah. I mean, from what I understand,
on his toes,
you're the guy, dude. Like, okay. So Andre Pettis, I think he's a club racer out of Arizona, and he's asking a question, and I'm going to add to it because you kind of already answered it, switching from a 600 to 1,000, but I'm going to add to that. What did you feel the biggest difference from stock 1,000 to Superbike?
I think a lot of it was getting involved in being able to change more things. That was the toughest part, being able to have more opportunity to do different things with geometry, with suspension, obviously with motor, and obviously with the electronic stuff. There's a whole nother game. And so that was kind of one of our big struggles when we moved from super stock with Road Race Factory on a Superbike on the R1 the next year. Is we got all this new cool stuff to play with, but sometimes it didn't always work, and we're always running around in circles trying to figure out what it is. When we go back to the year before and we were on just kind of this basic super stock bike, it was already in such a good spot that it was sweet everywhere we went, you know.
Right.
I could focus on my riding a lot more, which, cause you know, we weren't making big changes. So a lot of it was me just focusing on my riding, figuring out what makes me comfortable. And when you're wondering about all the electronics and the new swing arm and the new forks and the new wheels and all that stuff, I think we got a little overwhelmed with all that stuff that year, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I remember that. You guys, it was a tough time, but you guys had some good times, you know?
Yeah, we had a couple good races still that year, and just kind of we just had a couple bummer weekends too, you know?
So Brian Woody wants to know, why did you have to do that, do the rest of the field like that this year?
I know, I've had people ask me that, man. It's the same answer too. It's, you know, I'm just doing my job. That's what Richard wants me to do. That's what I want to do. I want to go out there and try to win races. And I know I didn't always put on the best, tightest race at the front, but like we were talking about earlier, I just was doing my job and enjoying racing as hard as I can every lap. And I figured if somebody can tag along and make it a show, then I'm all up for it. But until then, I'm just gonna go as fast as I can, you know.
Well, like I said, you know, there was a couple of races where people took shots, you know. I mean, I know Josh took a shot at you a couple times at the Ridge.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa, dude. You know, and then the Laguna thing.
Yeah, those were like probably two closest ones. I remember, like, because Josh was fast at the Ridge and he wasn't too far behind me at all there. And then even at Laguna with Baz, those couple races were even closer.
Yeah.
So yeah, even those tight ones keep you on your toes. It sucks you come by for 15 laps in a row and see 0.7 every lap, and you're like, oh man, there's nothing you can do to shake this guy, you
know? Yeah. So let's see. Dean Dufresne wants to know, what change did you make from going gas to off throttle? What was the benefits of this change?
From going what?
I guess from on off throttle, like, is there a change there? What benefits were that change? I'm not really understanding that, but
no, just shutting it off and getting on the brake, maybe, you know, but shutting it off and getting on the brake, into the brake a little smoother and into the fork a little smoother and into the tire a little smoother, and maybe not just going into unsettle mode straight away.
Okay, so let's see. Legitimate question. You faced little to no battles all season. Wow, what a dick. And to me, at least, some of the most fun on track is dicing up with guys. So, like, basically, the dude wants to know if you're bored.
No, I mean, I've had people ask me that, but I don't care, man. I'm, like I just said too. I mean, I just said it. I'm just doing my job, and that's what I'm hired to do, is go out and try to go as fast as I can and win races. So that's my one and only priority.
Okay, so this
and
guy
having
actually
fun comes along with it, so that's just part of the program.
So this guy actually has a couple of questions. You know, the first one is, how much of a tax success comes from their ability to tune the electronics for each specific turn on every track? Their bikes, especially Cam's last year and yours this year, seem to be light years ahead of all the other bikes in terms of overall tuning, and basically look, quote, easy to ride on the limit compared to the others. You want to talk?
I think no matter, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I know we're in a great spot on the bike, and but it's all about the rider being comfortable on the bike. You know, we could throw anybody on any bike, and if that comfort's not there, you're not going to be able to ride it for the best that you can, and it's not going to look pretty either. You know, I think even there's been times this year, for sure, maybe not so much in the races, but in practice, where if you watch me, you'd be like, it doesn't look good, and that doesn't look, or that bike looks like a little unsettled or a little tough to ride. But when I'm in the spot, by the time we get to the races, the bike's in a good spot to ride, and that's why we do the work dialing them in. And a lot of it, yeah, we can mess with stuff corner to corner, but that's really not. Once we got in a spot to work on the whole track, that's pretty much just maybe we'll fine tune a little here and there, and little, especially the spots where the bike's wheeling a lot, or but it's like you said, it's getting the bike in a spot where the rider's in a comfortable spot and knows what it's going to do.
His other question is your overall summary of your World Superbike experience. Like, what's your best or worst memory?
The best one for sure, I think, was Laguna Seca, just because that was such a cool event and racing on home turf. Like you said, I was pretty blown away by just kind of the fan support that we got. It was really, really cool. And I think we got, I don't remember, but a couple top tens, like an 8th or 9th, which is probably some of our best of the year. So that was probably the best. And the worst, man, I remember I had a huge crash in Assen. That was like that one big high side that I had that kept me down for a little while, and I missed those race weekends. So it sucked. It sucked to miss that one. And it was the home race for Tenkate. So they had they had a ton of people there, and Leon was already out from his shoulder injury a couple weekends before. So I was the only guy on the team that weekend, and I didn't even make it to the races. So I felt it was the home turf race. It's like right down the street from the shop, and that one sucked.
Let's pour some salt in that wound.
Yeah, they didn't like that one.
Wow. Okay, so I got some more YouTube questions too. I'm going to give Marcus Jackson credit for this one, even though I do have a few others asking it. Joseph at the shop was asking it too, but just say, let's do Jake versus, right? So like, let's just say Cameron and Garrett came back. Would you still win?
Who knows, dude? I think it'd be, I sure think it'd be a lot better racing than it was last year,
Right.
I would love to see that. That'd be awesome, but who knows? I would like to think that at least be some damn good battles, hopefully the whole race long.
You're so modest, dude.
I don't know that, man.
So, okay. And then I'm going to take it a step further. Joseph specifically said the first race. So like, say Cameron comes back and it's the first race. Who
I like that scenario. I don't know, man. I'd like to say I'd try to get a start and go, and I know Cam would be fucking right there. So oops. But who knows, dude? I like Cam, and I was always that guy that got to watch him slowly sail away, or sometimes really quickly sail away. So I never kind of got that opportunity to battle with him, and so it'd be nice to do that one of these days, hopefully.
All right. So Donovan Piper again, as a club racer that struggles with mental state prior to a race, not getting his head in the game per se, what do you do to get your head in the game prior to racing or even practice?
I just, I try not to think about a whole lot. I really just focus on my breath. Like if there's too much stuff going on and I'm thinking about stuff that I know I don't need to think about because I'm just waiting to go out and ride, everything's all dialed in, and I just focus on kind of my breath, long, slow breaths, and get some good oxygen and just try to shut everything else out, and with that too, I've always, every session and every race before I'm even in my leathers, we kind of know the plan. I know what I want to improve or what I need to focus on or what I need to be aware of, and having a little bit of that plan going in before you kind of, or even putting your helmet on helps, know what you got to worry about and put out, let go of the shit you don't want to worry about. I think that's about all I can say, and just breathe, be there.
Yeah. Just breathe. Like I've seen some club racers write notes to themselves on their dash and stuff. Like, don't forget to breathe, that kind of stuff.
Whatever helps, man.
Yeah.
Whatever helps. Even if it's on there and you'll never end up looking at it the whole race, but
never. Okay. Actually, this is a good question. Steve Matties wants to know, how do you like living in Durango?
I've liked it a lot. It's a nice change. Like I said, it was there's a lot of things about San Diego that I didn't really care for, the people and the traffic and just more and more, more and more people every year, more and more traffic and all that. And I just wanted to change, I wanted to get out of the city so much. And like I said, the motocross tracks and the ocean was the only tough thing to leave. And, I had a lot of good friends there and stuff and still do, but it's nice to be out in the mountains. We just today too, as we got our first snow of the year, it was kind of snowing a little bit throughout the whole day. And so, but it was good. My dog is just like a total snow dog. So he's freaking out all day running around. But it's been nice, there's a bunch of crazy, good trails to hike and bike. And it's nice living at altitude too. Like my house is at about 8,000 feet. And so when you're living up here and training up here and you go back down to sea level, you really do feel it. And it's the first time in my life, I think, that I've, spent this much time up at altitude, and it makes you feel a little better going down to sea level. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that. So are you going to get like a snowmobile or something?
I don't know. I might have to, man. I might have to.
I mean, I know, like, I don't know how, like, how's your little Nissan going to do in heavy snow?
That I sold that truck when I left.
Really?
So I don't even own a truck right now, man. I'm still trying to, yeah, it's not easy for me to spend money. So, but that's my goal. I need to get a truck before winter, before I'm too screwed, because I'm like borrowing my dad's and my brother's and my girlfriend's
All right. So Sebastian Sanchez wants to know if it can be qualified, what percentage of your riding is influenced by telemetry and Richard's feedback or Corn Dog's feedback?
It's hard to say it's hard to put a percentage on that. But like I said, I think a lot of it is just being in a comfortable spot, getting the bike, regardless of what any data says. If you're riding the bike and you like how it feels, regardless of the data and the telemetry and the lap times, I think that's always my priority. And I think our priority is get a bike that you understand and that what it's going to do and how it's going to react. And then from there, where you can kind of start getting into all the fine tuning stuff and looking at telemetry and all the lines and all the data a little bit more. Cause you could stare at data for 2 hours and think you're going to go a half second faster, or you could ride for 20 more laps and figure out how to go a half second faster. I think even, too, from Richard and his talk, it's like, sometimes that's just what it takes. You just need to get in a comfortable spot before you start worrying about all these lines,
So Austin Simmons, just to kind of add to that too, Austin Simmons asks, what it was like because you rode without the electronics, right? So to be able to like what did it take for you to be able to gain the confidence in the electronics to do what the bike what you wanted the bike to do?
That is definitely one of the tougher things, especially on a super bike. We all, we know how much power those things got. And so you think, you really got to start to trust and know, like I said, know how it's going to react when you put so much throttle input into it. And, but I think that comes with feel and getting it into a spot that, like you said, you can feel the tire breaking loose, how much it's spinning and, but never letting it spin too much. And I think that's what in TC and the wheelie control on these bikes, it just makes, especially for race distance, it makes the bike easier to ride, a little bit less drama and a little bit less room for kind of little mistakes to happen. But, it's not going to take a bunch of time off your lap times or anything like that. It's just going to make a lot more consistency, especially throughout a whole race on a super bike is not easy, and that consistency will just come a lot more up when all that stuff's dialed in.
I mean, you can hear it. You can hear it from the pits. Like if you're off track and watching you guys, when you come off the corner, you can hear that stuff holding the power, cutting the power, basically. It's like crackling and popping, right?
Yeah. And even this year, this year, they've run some different strategies, Richard and Darren. And so like even last year to this year, the thing sounds kind of completely different. just because of the way it's cutting power and all that stuff. So that we've even talked about it, I think at the beginning of this year when I was getting used to the new stuff, I'm like, dude, just don't even think about it, what it sounds like, put a heavier earplug in it or something, but just kind of feel it and understand what it feels like. Because even if, going through some of those things, even when it sounds different, it'll mess you up a little bit,
Yeah. Okay. So Sarah Chappell, she actually is the one that was taking a bunch of photos of the team.
Hey Sarah.
Half the season, right? So she wants to know, are you one that enjoys racing in the rain, or do you just got to deal with it because it's part of the job? She says she forgot to ask that last round.
It's honestly, it's a little bit of both. Like, it for sure depends on what track we're at, some of those tracks, you don't want to ride in the rain quite as much. But I mean, like for our last race at Barber, that's kind of that's probably one of the best tracks we go to all year in the rain, I mean, there was some points that weekend where we got a lot of rain and a little flooding, but like when it's just consistently wet, that track is actually really, like I told Corn Dog and the guys, even in practice and after the race, I'm like, I was having a lot of fun out there. I remember telling them that even after race one, I crashed out at like the second or third lap. And so I had to come in and we were a lap down. I went back out and rode around the rest of the race. I'm like, even though we got 11th or whatever, I still actually had fun cruising around there after I had already crashed, So I think it just depends on the track, like I remember riding Buttonwillow were you at the preseason test?
Yes, I was.
Yeah. And me and Josh are just staring out the garage like, all right, who wants to go first? So I remember we got some good laps in a Buttonwillow. I actually didn't end up being as bad as I thought until it started flooding and it got, the rivers is what gets you out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so that goes into the next question, right? I'm actually going to add this to this guy's question, but he was asking about a red flag situation. I'm just going to go off with, because there was like some chatter about it. Do you think that they should have red flagged race one?
I don't know. That's not my job, I guess, to make that call, but it just got worse and worse and worse. And so like, it was like a little more hydroplaning every lap. I didn't, for me being out there every lap, I thought it was pretty predictable and understanding where to take it a little easy and where the puddles were and where the rivers were. But yeah, it got a little gnarly, but I think at that point, they were already so close to the end. And yeah, the race was really spread out, but it's like at that point, everybody, and I think, they look at stuff like the lap times and try to understand if there was like a really big fallout and if there's people still going fast and the track can't be that bad type of thing. And so I don't know, that's why that's not our call.
Right. I mean, like I tell club racers, it's like, that's why we have a race director, because we're stupid racers. We're going to race until they tell us not to. Right.
So, exactly. Yeah.
So let's see, who was it that asked this question? Okay. So Eddie Robinson asked this question. And he says, do you think the race that you crashed in at Brainerd should have been red flagged?
I don't know. I mean, to me, I had no idea because I didn't know what the rules were. Even when I came back in the pits, I had no idea what the rules technically were. But that's what the rules were, I guess. And
yeah.
So that's. I wasn't going to say no.
I don't think they red flagged it for you. I think they red flagged it for Baz, right? I mean, I don't know.
And I guess what I was told, I think that there were so many. However, with me and then Baz, like there was a couple of those crashes back to back real quick like that they weren't sure. When they see real quick back to back ones, they're not sure if something's down or something happened at the track, blah, blah, blah. So I think that was just kind of whoever made that call quick, just kind of made it. And luckily we rolled it back in and got a bar on it and went back out.
Like, actually, I think at the start of that race, at the end of the warm-up lap, like a privateer dude like wiped out, like almost hit you on the way to the grid.
I don't remember who it was, but I remember, that's turn right before we line up to the grid. I think it was a black R1 flying, and then he got into the grass and I think locked the rear, locked the front up or something, went down pretty good.
Yeah. That's pretty weird.
Surprise.
super strange crash, right?
Sight and lap excitement there.
So let me ask you something, because I actually got to go to Brainerd. Was the track better than it was at the test?
Yeah, I mean, they made a couple little changes. Like they took some of the cones out of the way that they had ran there when we were at the track day. So they opened up some of those turns a little bit. Other than that, it was pretty close to the same, you know. But like the final turn didn't have those cones in there, so the line was better. And those other cones that were getting knocked around were out of the way. And so that chicane was kind of a little different. Actually, they did move the wall or something over by that chicane that we were worried about. And
Yeah, it looked like they'd moved it, but I couldn't tell for sure from watching it on TV.
Yeah, they moved it around a little bit. So it was, you know, it actually turned out to be a pretty cool track. It was a little weird. It was tough. It was bumpy. It was tricky, a lot of different types of asphalts, but it was one of those tracks, especially that first section, the really fast turn 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah.
That part was really cool.
Yeah, that, it kind of makes me wonder, like, how fast you guys would go if you guys were using the original turn 1.
Yeah, I don't know, fast. That'd be the biggest.
I know you guys were way over 180 with what you had. Imagine if you guys got to use the full turn 1.
That would make that turn 1. That's gnarly. How it used to be for those guys.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah. So, for next season, who do you think will be your biggest threat?
I think I don't know who's going to be where or anything yet. I don't think anybody does, but I would assume it'll probably be the same group of guys, but yeah, it's hard to say that. I don't know where any of the guys are going to be, but I'm sure if that same group of guys is going to be around, I know they're going to want to close that gap and not let that many wins happen. So
yeah, Marcus told me he was at the banquet and he said that basically Cam P called you out.
Oh yeah, good.
He's like, I'm coming for you,
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad, man. I know they want to win. Those guys, even Cam's a good buddy of mine. So it was good to see him get a win. And yeah, even we're buddies off the track, but we want to take those wins away from each other. So
yeah, you guys are stab each other in the necks on the track and then like close friends on the sidelines. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's fun watching you guys too, because I know you guys are friends through the dirt track school thing with Danny, right?
Yeah, like Cam Peterson and I and Skoltz too have we've done a lot of American Super Camps with Danny. And when Cam Peterson came over his first year from South Africa, it would have been 2015. It was when I was doing Super Stock with Road Race Factory. He was on the 600.
Okay.
And so that's when I met him. That was his first year in the States. And yeah, he's been over here ever since then. So. And
you were teammates with him on that Honda over there too, right?
No, he rode the Honda the year after I did.
Oh, okay.
I was on the World Superbike and he was on the Broster Chicken Honda.
Okay. I get it. Yeah, it all kind of blends together, man.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, 10-year overnight success, right? For you? Like you go with this, like you said, your last race win was 2015. All of a sudden you win 16 Superbike races in a row, like after not winning any. Like
I know that was wild. I know it's crazy to think it was like 6 years too, since we had a lot of good kind of close podiums, but we never were able to get that win, especially back in the day and last year. So it was nice to get. I was pumped to get. That was probably the sweetest one. Was that first one at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I mean, the reaction you had, to bounce back after having the mechanical failure or whatever, the first race of the season, like you were just, like you were pretty. You had some gestures and head.
Yeah. I know that. I guess that one surprised me too, because Richard and the Yamahas have always been so bulletproof, and that was just one of those things. And yeah, it was like the second or third lap of the first race of the year, and I was like, oh man, come on! And we had we were on pole. I felt like we had a bike to win, and the testing was all good, and so to start off like that was a little bit of bummer. But even on Sunday morning, I was already, I was over it. I'm like, this happened. I think we got it all out of the way and it's clear sailing from here. And yeah, Sunday I came to, even before that, I'm like, I'm coming to win this thing, even if something else happens. That's the plan. I think that was the only plan.
So as the race wins kept building up, like, was there extra pressure on yourself to like keep it going, or like what was your, I guess, what was your goal? Just to keep winning every race possible, or just hoping it worked out, hoping nothing went wrong? Like,
Yeah, I mean, my goal was really just, yeah, pretty simple. If we had the bike to win, to try to win. And every weekend I pretty much knew, especially after a couple weekends, I'm like, I know we can go pretty much anywhere now, and we're gonna be kind of setting the pace or close to it. So that was kind of the deal. And every race week when we brought the bike off the truck, and like we were talking about, we knew what we wanted to do, the little changes we might have to make for a different racetrack, and just got it right back in the spot we wanted, so we could focus on doing the races. And so it was fun. Like I said, fun working on doing, a different side of racing than I've had my whole life. Usually it's kind of wondering how I can go forward and try to catch that guy or move forward on the grid or move forward on the race. And this one, it was kind of making sure I always I want to have a little bit of a cushion in my pocket and try to get away from these guys, and that took a lot of work. So.
yeah, like you said, you were racing your pit board, right?
Yeah. And that was always, even before last year, that's always one of the tough things. I mean, everybody knows, if somebody says go out there and do 15 laps in practice, and try to make a whole consistent race run, it's not always easy, but the more you kind of focus on making that practice happen, it kind of becomes easier, and that pays off in the races for sure.
So am I crazy to think that it was actually you misread what the pit board was telling you at race one at Barber, and you thought they were closer than they were?
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure, because I knew, yeah, I got off, I think on the first lap came around, it was like 3 or 4 seconds. And I think I probably saw just 3 or +3, usually Mike would give me just a +3 or +3.1 or whatever. And I think I just saw 3. So I assumed, I'm like, no way, 3 seconds. Like, it's the first lap. So I kind of assumed it was 0.3. So I'm like, all right, I got to keep this thing rolling. These guys are right on me, and I know they want to try to make a pass. But yeah, that only lasted another lap and a half or whatever. And I threw it away a couple seconds on the second lap or something.
Yeah, I thought it was that they said that you thought it was 0.3.
I didn't know. I remember seeing 3, and in my head going down the front straight, I'm like, I wonder if it's 0.3 or 3, but I'm like, obviously I got to go with 0.3 because.
So I don't really get to talk to a lot of racers doing these things. So I asked Richard this, and I've asked Chuck Chiquetto and Melissa, and basically I try to ask this every year of people like that. And I'd like to ask you this: what do you think of the state of Superbike racing, and actually MotoAmerica racing in general?
I think I think MotoAmerica has done an awesome job with kind of the platform and the people they've brought on. And obviously the coverage we get is really good. The programs run really well every weekend. And there's a ton of entries. I know the Superbike class isn't the biggest, we'd all like to see, of course, a huge big grid. And but it's really nice to see all the other classes really have huge grids, and a lot of new guys coming in, a lot of new teams, new programs coming in all the time. And the racing's good in every class. I know I screwed up the racing for the lead a little bit this year, but it's been pretty awesome in all the other classes. I think everybody runs the program good. And yeah, and on the Superbike, that side of things, I think that's our goal. We just want to ride the best bikes we can, and try to go as fast as we can and work out what works, So I'm on board with riding, whatever.
So, what advice do you have to like a guy that wants to go Superbike racing? Like, what advice do you have for them? Like, where to start, or things to look out for?
Buy an R
Buy an
R1.
R1.
Step one, make it
Sound
easy.
you sound
Make
like
it
me
easy
now.
from step one. Just make it easy. Cut all the other shit out of the way. And if you can't talk to Richard, get all dialed in. I mean, he knows those bikes so well. And I say that because I ride a Yamaha, but I've also, I've seen it. And like I said, even in super stock trim, how well those things work. It's kind of surprising you don't see more in our super stock class. And I think, a lot of guys are, I'm sure, chasing whatever contingency kind of program works for them, and that is what it is,
Yeah, I mean, Richard and I have spoken about this quite a bit, and even talked to Tom as well. And it seems like a lot of guys are riding those green bikes, but the green bikes, man, they're paying like crazy money for contingency.
Really?
So, yeah. So of course, if that's the bike that pays all the money, then there you go, right?
Yeah, hopefully we can see, Yamaha and all the guys continue to be, involved and step up the programs and keep the show going,
Who would you like to see show up, with a manufacturer wise or rider wise? Who would you like to grid up against?
I mean, it'd sure be nice. We got Yamahas and Suzukis. We had a Ducati this year. It'd obviously be nice to have some Kawasaki's or Hondas, more, Ducatis. I think obviously, like we say, it's, we got a couple really strong bikes, a couple really, really strong riders. But it's not, it's not the hugest, biggest Superbike grid out there. But I'd like to see more manufacturers, more teams come in and allow for more riders and even more guys from Europe. I think that's always really great for us. It brings some more flavor and some more attention and some different things thrown at all the riders. So I think it's been cool to see that more over the years too. You see a guy like Loris coming over from Europe, a guy like Tony coming over, and even guys in the other classes, the other classes coming, some other guys coming from different countries and stuff like that. So it's been cool to see it grow over the years, see how much every year you see the paddock and how big it's growing and how many more guys are coming through, and everybody seems like it's a pretty solid program ran. So
that's awesome, man. Like it was pretty apparent when you go to a place like Barber or Laguna even. I mean, the paddock at Laguna was super full.
Yeah,
I think the largest number of bikes at Laguna were like those hooligans, like
yeah.
people talk crap about those baggers and the hooligans or whatever because they don't get it, but it's like, dude, at Laguna this year, there was more fans that were rolling in on full bagger dresser Harley things than I've ever seen. Like it looked like Daytona,
Yeah, no, it's huge. I'm stoked, and I love watching those guys race, man.
Yeah.
And it's cool when you see how badass those machines are for how big and gnarly they are, and you watch them how fast they go around the track, and like Kyle and Tyler and all those guys.
Yeah, I mean,
and like you said, it brings a lot of people in, so it's whatever gets them in the door, man.
They were doing lap times that were competitive with the 600 guys. Like,
I know, it's crazy. You see them spinning it, lighting it up off the turns, and it's pretty gnarly.
So what's up? You gonna have Richard build you a bagger or what?
Ooh, I don't know about that. I don't think of all the people that'll sign up for that program. I don't know if it'll be our buddy Richard.
I don't think so either, man. The Yamaha makes one, right? So
yeah, they do, right?
Yeah, I guess if the money was right, like if it made sense,
yeah.
Right?
maybe somebody will bring one of those Yamaha baggers into him one day and say, "Hey, Richard, make this a new race bike."
That would be funny. That would be funny. I would love to be there at the shop to get his reaction.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Johnny Simrozga, he asks this is actually kind of funny super camp question, but he's like, how come Cam does those sick 360s and you never bust them out? Have you ever tried them, or can you even do them?
I've literally asked Cam because I think he's been there. Cam throws them out like it's nothing all the time, and I'm like, I've done them like 2 or 3 times at one camp. I think we were in Northern California. I did a couple of them, and they weren't nearly like Cam. He's got that guy. I don't think anybody in the world is going to do those flying 360s like Cam does. He's got him so dialed in. He'll just drag the bar on the way and pick it back up, spin out, wheelie. And I just haven't messed with that. Like, every time I do it, I think of my knees and my ankles and my hips, and I'm like, all right, I'm back. I've gotten hurt at Super Camp once, and that was my last time that I was hoping to make that happen. So
right. Well, you're also, I mean, how old are you now? You're
28.
You're 28. Okay. Well, you still got time before you really start worrying about that stuff, right?
A little bit, but yeah, I think it'll start to set in here.
Right on. Well, you know what, Jake? Congrats on winning the championship, buddy. It's been a fun chat.
Yeah, cool. Totally. Thanks for having me on, man. And we'll see you. Maybe we'll see you later in the year at Buttonwillow, I'm sure. So.
Oh yeah. Well, timing, bitch. So I'm going to that.
Yeah, and you got to make sure.
Maybe I'll finally get to ride the Superbike.
If you just keep asking him, man, I think maybe one day he'll be having a bad day and he'll just do whatever it takes to shut you up.
You know what? That hasn't worked yet, but it just might. It just might. No, but he said it looks like I might get to ride the thing that day. So
yeah,
it's coming up, right?
Yeah.
So what's the goal for that one? What are you working on?
We're mainly just testing tires with the Dunlop guys. I don't know much about the whole plan yet, but just testing tires. I think they got some new stuff they want us to try and do some runs on, and I did some Dunlop testing on some of the like kind of newer stuff they're working on at Brainerd. I think that Thursday before the weekend. So
okay,
just some stuff that might feel a little different, or just trying to make them better. Those guys are always trying to make them better. So it's been a lot of fun working with them over the last couple of years to kind of try to make them better every year,
Right on, man. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up. Appreciate you coming on with me and spending your evening talking to this dummy in California.
Yeah, you got me up till 9:00, so that doesn't happen very often. So that's late for this guy.
What I need to do is I need to keep scumbagging you into coming out and riding with us.
Yeah, you will. I'll make my way out there this winter when I need to get out of the snow here.
You need to, man. We're going to Laguna in December. So.
Okay, cool. Early or what time in December?
The 12th and 13th, I think.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah. So let me know, dude.
All right.
Throw a Yamaha a stalker at you.
Yeah, I'll ride around with you guys.
We'll put you to work.
That's fine with me.
Right on.
If you got something to ride around on, I'll have fun with you guys.
We'll make you ride. You know what? We'll make you ride the MT-09 SP.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Have you seen that thing?
No.
Yeah, it's like a triple.
I think I know what you're talking about. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, this one has the Olins on it.
Oh, okay.
Pretty
okay.
sweet.
Cool.
Yeah, you might have to arm wrestle Marcus Jackson for it because he seems to like take it over every time we roll it out of the trailer. But I don't know.
Must be something good about it, then.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. The guys kind of fight over it. So, yeah. So yeah, MT-09 SP is yours at Laguna.
All right, Dustin.
All right,
Cool.
Jake.
I'll
Good
talk to
times,
you later,
buddy.
man.